We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's January 2nd here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yoon, and you're watching the first episode of News Generation for the year 2024. Joining me in the studio is Chiji. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! And Cheska Daina.
Happy 2024, everyone!
Happy 2024!
Yay, we
Glad to
made
have
it.
you back. We made it! Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Let's start with our first story. The U.S. stock market has capped off a wild end of the year with the Dow reaching record highs. But some portfolio managers are concerned that the market could suffer its own post-New Year's Eve hangover this January. Analysts pointed to how U.S. stocks have already been overbought, and the VIX, which measures how volatile traders expect the S&P 500 to be over the coming month, fell below 12 in December, the first time since the beginning of the pandemic. Experts believe that if this surges up, investors will start pulling out, and the inflation report, long scheduled for January 11th, is expected to shake up the market. Starbucks Korea has started the year off with a bang, marking the beginning of 2024. The beloved coffee franchise held a special lucky visitor event, handing out free drinks to the first 24 customers. Many uploaded pictures on social media of how they were waiting in long lines to benefit from this event, even hours before the store was actually open. And there's many different ways countries ring in the new year. The U.S. has its iconic Times Square ball drop in New York. Here in Korea, we have the bell ringing ceremony at Bosinggak Pavilion in Seoul. But there was also a large-scale drone show at Gwangalli Beach in the port city of Busan. Many were extremely excited to see this year's show, and a rehearsal video was first released featuring 2,000 drones making up a blue dragon in light of 2024 being the year of one. Now, despite hyped anticipation, the drone show came to a complete failure just seconds before the New Year's countdown. The city postponed the show until 30 minutes after midnight, citing network errors, but eventually they had to cancel the show completely. Now, officials believe that there were just too many people there at Gwangalli Beach that night. The size of the crowd led to a network error, which made the drones inoperable without proper internet connection. Around 82,000 people were there on the night. Many posted on social media how disappointed they were. Some said they had booked expensive hotels just to enjoy the drone show, but were very enraged that they couldn't see it. Others were disappointed that they had to spend the last night of 2023 and the first few minutes of 2024 like this, not even knowing that the new year had begun with a bang. Now, what were your thoughts on hearing this story here in the studio, starting with you, Cheska?
I think it must have been a huge disappointment for how many people? 80,000 people that
82,000, yeah.
That gathered just to see this amazing drone show. And I saw the rehearsal on TV, and it was so beautiful, the blue dragon flying around. And, you know, people must have had so much expectation after seeing that rehearsal to see the actual show. So my feelings really go out to all the people that were out there. But also, on the other end, the organizers must have been also very, very frustrated and sort of very anxious because, you know, their goal was to deliver this great show on the New Year's Eve, and for it to go to a complete failure, I think it must have been a huge disappointment on both ends.
Exactly. And Chihi, I know you were there at Busan City over the New Year weekend. What were your thoughts? Did a lot of people around you, were they disappointed?
Well, I never thought of going to Gwangalli, although I knew that there was going to be a drone show, and I did watch the rehearsal video as well online, and it was impressive. But I didn't really think of going out, unlike the crowd, because it was quite cold, and I was at home, and we were on the 35th floor, so we had a pretty good view, and I was just watching the fireworks there. But then, for those who had been waiting for the show and had even planned their trip around it, they must have been very disappointed and even very angry at the organizers as well. But I heard that they didn't even receive a proper apology. So they must get a proper apology, although this won't be enough for what they did for the new year.
Exactly. I think a lot were enraged that Busan does this every year. And they were very shocked to see that preparations weren't up to par as they would expect, given the fact that there were so many international visitors that even came just to see that on the last day of the year. And you always know, it's a symbolic time of the year. We really want to spend it in a special way with our loved ones. But to see a big event like that flop, I guess, could be quite disappointing.
Yes, very.
But switching gears to our main discussion topic of the day, as we bid farewell to the past and look forward to happier things in the new year, it's that time again when many of us engage in the age-old tradition of setting New Year's resolutions. Whether it's hitting the gym, learning a new skill, or simply striving for personal growth, the ritual of crafting resolutions has become synonymous with the fresh start that January 1st brings. So here in the studio, did you guys make a New Year's resolution list?
I did. It's not very special though.
Really? What's on it?
Well, my New Year's resolutions, first of all, include earning as much as I did last year.
Yes, money.
At least, which means I'll have to work as much as I did last year as well.
That's good though. That's good. Yeah.
So I also plan on getting back into the habit of exercising regularly as well, at least 3 times a week. And I also intend to write a daily diary as well to keep a record of what I've been doing and as well as my feelings as well. And I've got the idea from you, because you said that writing a diary really helps with controlling your feelings and reflecting on yourself. So it's quite different from the scheduler that I've been keeping for over 10 years now.
Wow.
But that's just for organizing my work schedule. And last but not least, I also aim to read 1 book per week and keep a video record, create a video content out of it. And really get into the act of creating content.
You know, I'm just very awed by how balanced out your New Year's resolutions is. It's not only like physical stamina, but mental health, and also you're talking about making video content. I'll be looking forward to that. What about you, Cheska? What is your New Year's resolution?
Hers is so balanced. It's like physical, intellectual,
Exactly.
and finance.
Exactly.
Finance. So I actually brought mine as an example.
Wow.
So
this is really nice.
This is what I do every year. Obviously, it's personal, so I can't reveal the details too much. But what I actually do is I do it in a very interesting way where I go month by month of the past year. So I do more of a reflection for the resolution. So I do the reflection part, and then this week I'll fill out the resolution based on the reflection that I did. And this is sort of the way that I try to keep my resolutions to reflect how I used the last year to, sort of engage with people, use my energy, what I've learned. And based on that, I try to upgrade just a little bit. Yeah.
That's really interesting because, as I was going to say, your New Year's resolution had 2023 on it.
Exactly.
So I was like, shouldn't it say 24? But it's quite fascinating that you reflect on the past year first, right?
Yes, exactly. What about you, Grace? What do you do?
For me, actually, as I told you, I am your diary senior because I told her to write down like logs about what her day was like. And I did that too. I look back at the year and I'm more of an envisionary. I think I don't have specific goals set per se, but my biggest goal for the year of 2024 is to be an uplifting person that can share happiness to people and really share my values and make that really tight-knitted community.
You know what? We're laughing because we know where she got that quote from.
I actually saw it on a Tumblr. It said, change your day and raise your value. I'm going to go with that motto. But anywho, that was my resolution. But another popular resolution among millennials and Gen Z seemed to be cutting down on social media. And here in the studio, why do you guys think more people from our generation, when we're even called the thumb generation, are striving to do so, like spending less time on social media? What's the benefits behind that?
Well, I'm also the type of person who uses considerable amount of time on social media as well, but then I do know that there are several disadvantages. I mean, I use it for self-promotion purposes as well as connecting with people as a freelancer, but then these disadvantages, because of them, many people in our generation are striving to cut down on them.
Right.
Yes, and one of them is its addictive nature, and studies have found that excessive use of social media leads to the release of a large amount of dopamine in the brain, which is responsible for the feeling of pleasure and happiness. But then this is what this is what makes us addicted to the use of social media. And the regular release of dopamine leads to a tolerance of pleasure as well, which means over time you would need more and more of that to feel the same level of happiness.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And so people become overly reliant, and also the attention deficit is also becoming a huge problem as well. So people are accustomed to short form content, so they're finding it difficult to really focus on one thing and really pay attention to one task as well. And there's also the problem of related to some personal issues as well, because many political figures as well as celebrities, their issues have risen based on social media as well. So what they do on these platforms, or even who they follow and unfollow, have made a fuzz as well.
It's always under the radar. I think that's with social media. You can't really have a personal life there because it's so exposed. What are your thoughts on this? Why is our generation refraining from social media?
You know, everything that Jihi pointed out, I think, are absolutely crucial and most necessary reasons that people are trying to stay off from the social media. I mean, we have to understand with every technology, there are certain benefits. You know, social media creates movement, and one of the greatest, you know, social movement and awareness that happened this year in regards to war or the Turkey earthquake all happened because of social media. However, as Jihi mentioned, social media does have a very addictive tendency, and it is designed with an algorithm to keep coming you back.
Exactly.
So it's very hard to escape it unless we consciously and actively, you know, practice self-discipline and control. So I'm completely with the generation of ours that try to limit our use of social media through self-discipline.
Exactly, and we asked if our viewers ever considered cutting down on social media and if they would actually consider doing so in the new year. So if you take a look at the screen, you can find out here's what 3 of our viewers had to share with us. Let's start with MIMS. MIMS said, I'm going to stay off social media more because I see so many ads. It's hard to actually filter through and find what I care about on SNS anymore. And Sue said, yes, I would like to. I think people are spending so much time routinely on social media that makes them lack hobbies or they neglect routines or homework or many other things that they should have actually done. Little Stinkit said, I actually enjoy social media. I work a full-time job, hang out with friends, but my enjoyment and downtime is social media, so no, I'll probably spend the same amount of time online. So while we're seeing split opinions on whether this is the way to go or not, we've definitely seen a lot more young adults go, quote, monk mode. In other words, they're transitioning from a screen-obsessed generation to a life that resembles a monk, detoxing social media and stepping away from materialistic temptations online. And why do you guys think this is the case?
You know, I love that concept. It's like going to a technology monastery.
Yes, exactly.
And meditating without technology. I absolutely love this concept, but there are many psychological studies that actually prove, as Jihi pointed out, that, you know, technology does influence our mental stress and pressure a lot. And there's a term that actually has been coined by the American Psychological Association, quote, techno stress. And these are mental strains that are literally caused by too much technology. And I think one of the common ones that we all suffer from is this comparison trap.
Right.
Because social media is known for self-promotion. So whatever we post, we usually promote the highlights. And just based on the highlights, we tend to think that everybody has this glamorous and gorgeous life, which is so not true. So I do hope that the social media, you know, kind of pivots from that to show more real side and more connection. However, I think taking some time off from social media would probably do you much better than trying to find that kind of community within social media.
Because you're already living a bustling life in the modern day, but if you go online, it's not like a mind rester or anything.
Exactly.
You're actually bustled with so much information, whether that be about some stranger's life or memories that you might have the fear of missing out on. What about you, Chi? Could you elaborate on why more young adults are trying to spend less time online, in specific for social media?
Well, that's because many individuals have actually regretted after posting something on their social media and have ended up deleting it as well. If we take a look at the screen, recent statistics reveal that over 50% of people have regretted and even deleted their social media posts, photos, or videos. Less than a third of respondents have never regretted or deleted their posts. However, slightly over 10% have regretted but not deleted their posts. I think it's sometimes because it's very challenging to entirely erase your digital footprint online. And I've also seen some of my friends who've been in relationships in the past have posted lots of photos with the significant other, but after a breakup, it was hard for them to delete all those those posts. And even if you delete them, if you Google them, sometimes they still pop up.
It pops up. And definitely, you know, I don't think you can completely erase your digital footprint because there are some people that screenshot it.
That's true.
Right.
I don't know why, but there are those cases, which is why it makes you think twice before you upload anything. You make sure you're safe, really confident that this is okay, even though it's there for years. Now, we're now going to hear an expert's thoughts on the pros and cons of this latest monk mode trend and where our generation wants to be less dependent on the internet and social media. So stay tuned for our live interview. Let's now hear from a research fellow of Internet Studies. It's Dr. Jin Lee from Curtin University. Welcome, Dr. Lee.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Dr. Lee, what type of consequences are there from people being addicted or spending way too much time on social media?
Probably we can think of a couple of things, but maybe two things are very, very prominent. The first thing is that, as you mentioned earlier, the profit issues. A lot of people just post, ordinary things about their lives, and then that becomes sometimes viral, and then you encounter issues of the privacy, or, sometimes you encounter like the stalking, online stalking, or harassment, sexual harassment, or just, physical harassment and the offline. So that's one of the things that we can think about. The other thing is that social polarization. So social media constantly feeds you the same things or the similar things that you like. And then people have, different ideas and then different point of views. On social media, it's very easy to loop into that kind of echo chamber or the rabbit hole because you interact with people who have similar ideas or similar point of views. And also the algorithm constantly recommends that kind of things. And then you believe that you come to believe that your way of thinking is the dominant and then the right one. In our society, we sometimes change our way of thinking and then we learn from other people through the interactions. But on social media, that the ecosystem makes you or the reinforce your way of thinking. And then on social, when you go outside, you sometimes think that your way of thinking is the right one, and then the other people are bad or the wrong, and then that causes or that ignites social violence or social polarizations or the more severe issues in our society these days.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, then, in your opinion, what are some benefits of cutting down on how long we're on social media?
I think, sometimes, as you mentioned earlier, like sometimes young people go the monk mode or like, I need a detox from my social media account, and then they just quit their social media account or, delete their social media account. That is a way of doing, good things from, just taking their time off from social media. However, it's important to think about instead of the quantity, but more quality. Like, we have seen that a lot of good things happening on social media, as you mentioned earlier, like, social movements or like, just the everyday activism that a lot of people just participated in by watching social media or just commenting on social media content. So for example, like I'm a very young person, I don't know what to do about climate actions, but just watching social media content about climate actions or, like the environmentalism, we can learn from that kind of things, and then we can participate in raising our voices against the government or our society, right? So that's a way of doing good things through social media. A lot of things bad, on social media, there are a lot of bad things as well. But however, we need to think about instead of just thinking like how many times that I spend on social media or like how many hours that I use of social media, we need to think about the quality that we use or that we interact on social media.
I love your idea about this, quality over quantity, because, the technology, I think, is always about the how, not so much the what. As users, what is one thing that we can actively do to become, better citizen of this media world?
I think we need to be conscious about the social media content that we are engaging with. So, for example, let's say on Instagram, we see that social media algorithm recommend various things that go viral, right? And then it is very just tempting to click the viral things because it has a very provocative titles or rumor about this celebrity, and the people think that, oh my God, I need to click that. This is so tempting. However, maybe just to think the other way, just participating in the clicking, you kind of reinforcing that scandal, and then that becomes that actually harms people, the physical or the mentally, mental health of that kind of people. And then clicking that kind of provocative or viral things, we are missing some very, very important things, a social issue or
Being
issues
responsible.
of minority.
Right,
so
exactly. As you
very
mentioned,
important.
Dr. Lee, I think it's very important that we all really be careful and responsible as to what we're clicking online. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure hearing from you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and looking forward, are there any tips we'd like to share to our viewers who might not necessarily have to go completely mumbo, but spending quality time on social media? Very briefly, any tips?
Well, I remember using this one function on my social media platform that warns me when I've been using it for too long.
Okay.
So this warning sign would pop up, and you can set a specific time limit to really curtail your usage and limit your time spent on it. And additionally, I think setting goals and checking in with a group of people who share the same goal is always very motivating, and it helps you to keep going. And I think, as Professor Lee said, focusing on the quantity and not quality, not so much the quantity, is more important when it comes to using social media.
Quality over quantity. Cheska?
I really loved what Dr. Lee pointed out, and I think with any technology, it's always about the how, not so much the what. I have gained tremendous knowledge and inspiration through social media, met so many tons of great people. So I really think this generation needs to practice media literacy in terms of carefully selecting and screening what benefits us and keep far away from those that do not.
Starting from the tips of your fingers,
Exactly.
starting from your own phones on
Very
social
easy.
media. That could be your New Year's resolution if you don't have one. In the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee
Thank you.
and Cheska Dainong.
Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year! All right, and thank you everyone for watching. We are
News Generation.